just said maybe he's in Kenya right now, or maybe he's in his mansion and have a meeting with his lawyers, a group of lawyers, and see how can he deal with that. But
Yeah.
don't know. He's have yeah. 1 second. Let's see. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is July 21st. And before we start the program, I just want to say sorry to everyone because our schedule is at 12 noon Eastern, the Pacific time, but I have a little technical uh, issue. So sorry about that. And then welcome to our dear friend, Tom. Tom, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Tom. We have so many big issues, big news need to discuss today. And before we start, I'd like to introduce Tom to our audience. Tom worked in FBI for 30 years, and he actually worked as assistant director for 5 years, and he's retired right now. And again, I really appreciate he comes to our podcast every week to give us his input of the news that happened. So, Tom, we have some good news. I think that DOJ just confirmed that they received the document from National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard, which regarding the Obama and his group of people try to do the bad thing to President Trump. Is this, for you, from your opinion, the biggest news of the
I think
century?
so, because what we have with Tulsi Gabbard is that these are the actual documents that the Democrats used in 2016, 2017, and on to go
Mhm,
after Trump improperly. And the meetings, the original meetings, were chaired by President Obama before he left office. And this is like within a month of him leaving office. So you have the documents, you have memos, you have handwritten notes of what was being discussed and who was doing the discussing, who was in the meetings. So you
mhm,
have Obama chairing the meeting as president, and then you have Biden there, and he might have been more cognitively aware then. I don't know, but he was there.
mhm,
And then you have Comey, Brennan, Clapper, uh, several top echelon people within the national security apparatus of the United States. And these are their own words, their own directives, their own memos on what they wanted to do and do it against Trump. So this is more than election interference. This is an attempted coup because Trump had already been elected. And
right.
at the time they're holding these meetings, they're within 3 weeks of Trump being sworn in.
Mhm,
So they're starting all of the lawfare is really going on then to either try to nullify the election, which they didn't have any hope of doing, or starting all of the scandal that would go on against Trump once he swears in. So
mhm,
once Trump becomes president, all the elements were there that the Democrats were going to use to try to impeach him.
right.
And and I think that all at the time, Trump, you recall back then in 2016, 2017, said they're spying on me. They're spying on my campaign.
Right.
Oh, that's such a lie. Oh, you're making that up. Well, it was all true. That's exactly what they were doing.
Mhm,
And now those documents, as they've been coming out, we know what they did and how they did it and why they did it.
mhm,
And to me, it's one of the biggest scandals in election history of the United States that you have at the time a sitting president, Obama, trying to derail his successor, duly elected Trump.
yeah.
And Trump is about to be sworn in, the third week in January, and these meetings are in the first week of January. He's
Mhm.
about to be sworn in, and they're doing everything they can to derail his presidency right from the beginning. And then, even if they don't, and they're not successful in derailing it or impeaching him or having him removed, what
Mhm.
they are at the minimum successful in is making his presidency pretty much paralyzed for the first couple of years because of having to fend off all of these accusations.
Mhm. That's right. That's right. And Gabbard said yesterday that they have overwhelming evidence of Obama administration laid the groundwork for the years-long Trump Russia collusion investigation after, yeah, just like you said, President Trump won 2016 election. So do you think there is already enough evidence for DOJ to begin to investigation and document or even arrest someone?
There's way more than enough to begin the investigation. This investigation should already have been started and be in full swing. So there's no, to me, no question that there should be full investigation. Now, beyond that, from my view of the evidence, it's overwhelming
Mm-hmm,
against all of the named people, including Obama.
mm-hmm.
Then people might say, oh, they shouldn't prosecute a former president. Well,
Right.
they didn't hesitate to go after Trump when he was a former president. So, so all of the hypocrisy and lies of the Democratic Party are now coming to light. And Tulsi Gabbard has the paper. It's on paper. She had it and gave it to Congress as well as DOJ.
Mm-hmm,
So there's no question that they have the evidence they need.
mm-hmm,
And I think that, and we're not talking impeachment of Obama. We're talking prosecution of Obama and the other people that were behind this election interference, obstruction of justice,
mm-hmm.
you name it.
Sure, sure. So if we have just like together and you just state that we have overwhelming evidence for that, and so how long, in your opinion, might take for the processing to start, like the legal processing?
Good question. It's hard to tell at this point how long it will take for DOJ if they're going to convene a conspiracy grand jury now with all of this information and present it to actually bring formal charges against all of the people involved in this,
Mm-hmm,
including Obama, including Biden, and then down the line, Brennan, Comey,
mm-hmm.
McCabe, any of the others that were involved in all this. And you heard little mention of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because Hillary, she went after Tulsi Gabbard tooth and nail. And if you remember back in those days, she accused Tulsi Gabbard of being an agent of Russia, which is later what they're accusing Trump of being an agent of Russia. And now we see none of that's true. And we see the motive going back to 2016 and 17, the motive against Tulsi Gabbard was she told the truth and they didn't want it. And you remember Tulsi Gabbard during the presidential uh, campaign, let's say, for the president nomination of 2016 and 2017, she went after and is credited with single-handedly derailing the Kamala Harris presidential campaign.
Right.
And she did that 3 or 4 minute
Yep.
speech about all the things wrong with Kamala Harris, and it was devastating.
Yep.
Everybody knew it. And within a week or two, Kamala Harris dropped out of the
Yeah.
presidential campaign.
She's done after Tulsi Gabbard's speech. Yeah. That was
Yeah,
a wonderful one.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, talk about Obama. You just mentioned that people said Obama, he was the president, so he has immunity as a president. Does that help to get away with his crimes if we confirm that he had the crime? Because
He
he was
doesn't necessarily have immunity for the things he's being accused of.
so if the president have the immunity, yes, of course they have what kind of crime that he can get away with because he was a president.
he shouldn't get away with any of these. And if not, his whole administration and legacy is completely discredited and should stay discredited. Now, as far as the others, Brennan and Comey and that, they should be prosecuted. No
Of course.
immunity for them. They should be prosecuted
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
set the precedent in our government by going after these people for what they did, not the made up phony charges that the Democrats used against Trump, later, the 94 charges that they brought against him and all of that. These
Mm-hmm.
are real crimes that these guys committed.
Right. Yeah, and still talking about Obama, it's very interesting. We have not heard from him for quite a bit of time. Where is he? On X or some other platform, people just asking, "Where's Obama?" We haven't heard
Well,
from him. This is a big accuse about his crime. Where is him? What do you think?
all he has to do is stay home and not answer the phone and leave it at that. So we'll see. We'll see when if and when he comes out.
And also, General Flynn actually just uh, have the X on the platform, and he said that uh, be careful about his passport. We should take off his passport, take back his passport. He just wonder if Obama will get out of the States, will go somewhere, escape. Do you think he can if he want?
Sure, probably. But what will that look like? That's way beyond pleading the Fifth Amendment not to incriminate yourself. He flees the country. That pretty much is going to
Right,
convince people he's fleeing because he's guilty.
right, right, right. Exactly. And also you mentioned some names of his team. Who do you think is involved in this crime? I mean, anyone tells he hasn't mentioned yet. So we
Well,
have
the fact of who was in the meetings with Obama, and that's in the documents that Tulsi has turned over, the fact that you have Brennan and Comey, Clapper, others in that meeting, and they're all in the notes of the meetings, which has been turned over to DOJ. It pretty much is that this is what they decided they wanted to do with Obama's concurrence or approval or encouragement. So they're
Mhm.
all involved in promoting the conspiracy to go after Trump, to go after starting with Russiagate and some of the other stuff. And then of course they don't do anything with Hillary and the destruction of emails and her noncompliance with subpoenas. So she got away with murder as well.
Yeah, right. And the other name mentioned Susan Rice. And
Right.
what is
Yeah.
her role?
No, she was a principal advisor to Obama. And so she was, almost like the unofficial vice president under Obama.
Mhm,
Um, so she was involved in all of the conspiracies and who's going to do what.
mhm,
So, she's absolutely complicit, and then her name is going to be in all of the documents that Tulsi Gabbard turned over.
mhm. Right. So she's one of them for sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
And you know what, Tom? I actually read the news yesterday. It's very interesting about Susan Rice. She actually emailed herself a memo on the
right,
very same day of the meeting. And
right.
the word is according to President Obama, the IC need to do such, such, and such. So what do you think? Why she emailed herself about that?
Well, I think that was the strategy on her part to show that she was part of it, but not a leader of it or anything like that.
Ah, so she wants to just get off some responsibility of the thing,
Of course,
right?
yeah,
Yep. And people also mention Pompeo. So he was the director of of CIA at that time. So what is his role? Does he know that? He doesn't know that, or he don't care?
yeah. No, he's going to know it, and everybody knew it at the time. That's why most of the Trump people knew that Pompeo was a traitor from the beginning. And they were Pompeo, if you recall, this past presidential campaign with Trump, Pompeo was putting himself out. Pompeo put out a rumor he's going to be selected by Trump to a key position, CIA director or State Department, Secretary of State, something like that.
Mhm.
And the Trump campaign, Trump himself, I think, just immediately shot that down. No, he's not under consideration for anything.
Mhm. Mhm.
So they already knew that he had backstabbed Trump,
Mhm.
and there was no way he was going to be given any kind of consideration for a
Right.
key job.
Right. Yeah, is that possible for you to talk about Mike Pompeo for a little bit more? Because in Chinese community, as I know, the people really like him. He looks so nice. He's just like a big uncle. And yeah, and yeah, he's doing very well in the opinion of lots of Chinese community, people from this community. So,
Well, the problem is, so are other Democrats doing really well with that community. And I think that, my hope is that the rest of the Chinese American community um, wake up and stop kowtowing to all of these Democrats and their nonsense. And you look at now this Mondami in New York that's
oh,
about to be elected mayor is a total communist.
it's
So,
just crazy.
you know, it's crazy that he would get that kind of consideration and reputation and get elected. And if you look at most of the big cities in the United States have elected Democrats who are full-blown socialists or communists or,
Mhm.
something bad, and they're all getting elected.
Right,
So, so shame on the Chinese Americans that don't recognize communism when they see it, when
right.
they left China to come to the United States to have a life free of communism, free
Mhm.
of the CCP.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't understand why there's so much stupidity within the Democratic Party to want to keep electing these guys to run their cities and
Right,
run their cities into the ground, whether
right.
it's New York or LA or yeah, LA. Karen Bass is a full-blown communist. Look at Chicago. Look at all these
Look at
cities.
Minneapolis. Yeah, Minneapolis. Do you see the news?
Yeah,
It's just go crazy. It's out of control,
I
in
know.
my opinion. Out of control. And yeah, so Pompeo was recommended by who recommended Pompeo as a CIA director at Trump's first term? Do you still remember?
I don't remember. No.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so Hillary Clinton. How about beautiful Hillary? So this time, can she get away? What do you think?
Well, she'll get away with it if the Republicans and if now the Republican controlled Department of Justice chicken out and don't go after her. They've
Mhm.
had ample evidence since 2015 or 16 to go after her. And
Mhm.
and that was even before she put out the phony dossier and all of that stuff that she paid for. She should have been under extreme scrutiny for
Yeah,
obstruction of justice, destroying the emails, 33,000 emails that she had received, the fact that she refused to have a government operated server when she was Secretary of State. She opted for her own private server to
mhm.
avoid Government Records Act, which that's a felony. And she
Yeah.
got away with that. So yeah, I think that she's gotten away with this stuff for years and years.
I remember President Trump said that he was considered to arrest Hillary Clinton, but then he changed his mind because she was the first lady, right, of the United States. And he said, okay, I don't think it's a good idea to put the former first lady to into the jail. So he just decided not to chasing her. So do you think he will still keep thinking that way this time, or he changed his mind?
I would hope he's changed his mind, and I would hope that that he could defer to Pam Bondi and the rest of the Department of Justice to do the right thing this time
Right.
and not be worried about poor Hillary or her reputation or she was the first lady or any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The law
Yeah.
is the law. They keep saying no one's above the law, but apparently she's been above the law. Obama's been above the law, but they use that expression to go after Trump. Well, he's not above the law.
Mm-hmm.
We are, but he's not. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that, I think it's about time that they do something about that. And if Bondi doesn't do it, then get rid of her and bring somebody in to run the Department of Justice who will do the right thing.
Right, right. Yeah, this is the next question I just about to ask it. Do you think Bundy has the courage to do that?
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. So we should see the result pretty soon, right? Within a month or two.
Yeah, you should know pretty quickly if they're going to use that information to impanel a grand jury and present much of that evidence
Right.
and go after these guys. And then the question is going to be of in that group, who's going to want to cooperate to save their skin? And
Yep.
we'll see.
Right.
That's a good possibility too.
Right. And Tercy mentioned at yesterday that some people just came out whistleblower. They are after she just dropped a bomb, and then some people, very key people, inside IC, just came out and they want to do something right. So, which is pretty good news. And we're looking for some more information. She said very important evidence will coming out this week. So, um, so while this probably the biggest and the most egregious political event in American history, has something like this even happened before in a history, though? Something similar
Well,
happened?
there were accusations of voter fraud and manipulation and things like that, in the 19th century. So you had accusations being made. Go back to Andrew Jackson and whether he was a bigamist or things like that when he was running for president, and others since then. So there have been various scandals along the way.
Mhm,
But this one in the modern era, with the media there covering it, with all of the ample evidence, back in the days of George Washington and the early presidents, the mail was traveling by, stagecoach from one place to another.
mhm,
Um, they just didn't have the mass communication like they do now, and like they've
mhm.
had now for the last couple of decades. So I think to me, I don't know of any other scandal that would be worse than this. That's in historically, that would be worse.
Yeah. So actually I'm thinking about Richard Nixon, his case, Watergate. When we look,
Well, in Nixon's case,
yeah,
he didn't specifically order the bugging of the Democratic National Headquarters. So that team was put together. And there are some people that think that they did that on purpose because the CIA didn't want Nixon and wanted him out, and that
mm,
that was partially designed to get him out. But
mhm,
part of that controversy is that, there's so much credit that has gone to Bob Woodward from the Washington Post
mhm,
and later the movie All the President's Men and all of that. He didn't have the kind of reporter background that would have merited him getting that assignment to be the lead reporter in something that big. So there was a lot of speculation, and he had worked in the intelligence community. So there was a lot of speculation later that
mhm.
Woodward was planted there by the intelligence community to help take out Nixon. And he was fed much of what went into the Washington Post and what came out publicly was spoon fed to Woodward to do that.
Right, right. Yeah, talk about Richard Nixon. That's a first generation of Chinese immigration. I personally do have a very special feeling about him because he is the one that most Chinese people know about American. He is the one who opened the door for
Absolutely.
Chinese. Yeah. So, so looking back, do you think his policy to China at that time is the right one? What do you think about
Yeah, I
it?
think so. I think he did a lot of things that were courageous at the time of his presidency. He founded the Environmental Protection Agency,
Mhm,
among other things. So, he had many good policies that he put in. As far as the China goes, there were a lot of behind the scenes things going on between the United States, Russia, China. And in public, China and Russia were holding hands, communist brothers, we love each other. And behind the scenes, tremendous rivalry between the two countries. And what enabled Nixon to go to China and know that they would agree to have him like that was that the FBI had a key informant in the Kremlin. Now, later you have the book Cardinal of the Kremlin by Tom Clancy.
mhm,
That informant told, that he was tasked by the FBI president, tasking the FBI, what would happen if I went to China? What will happen between the two countries? Will there be a war? Will they both come against the U? What will happen? And are they really allies, China and Russia?
mhm,
And this informant, who was in the Kremlin, close to Brezhnev at the time,
mhm,
said, no, that Russia and China are not that close of allies. You will be opening a wound between those two countries, like a wedge,
mhm,
if you start a great relationship with China, because Russia thinks that you're not going to do that or nobody's going to do that.
mhm,
And that's what ended up happening. So
mhm.
Nixon went to China with the assurances of the FBI that it would be a successful trip.
Ah, I see. So this is so interesting when we look back at history. It's China and Russia as a real allies. It still remain the questions up to date, right? We.
Exactly right. That's what I was just going to say. All the times that they say how close of allies, no, they're not really.
Hmm.
Not really.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
have to say so because they're both saying, "Wow, we're communist. We follow the
Mhm.
communist teachings and of Karl Marx." And they have separate agendas, and they always have, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so what do you think of the follow-up of this event might be? What's the next? What's your prediction of the coming up of
You
the
mean Department of Justice? What?
no, the Obama crime?
Well, I think that, now it's going to be in the hands of the Department of Justice.
Mm-hmm.
So that means Pam Bondi, and ultimately it means Trump. Now, are they going to want to take all of these documents, look at additional investigation, get more information, and present it to a grand jury? And that you hear the talk of conspiracy grand jury because they if they investigate it as a conspiracy, there's no time limit. There's
Yep.
no statute of limitations.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter, excuse me, the whole conspiracy.
I see. So, we actually have the news yesterday. It's a little surprise to me, maybe not surprise to you, about Tom Cotton. He is the chairman of the Senate Select Committee of Intelligence. So there is a report from the conservative press and said the response from Chairman Tom Cotton and the SSCI to the action of DNI Tulsi Gabbard was predictable. So this committee has now framed Intelligence Authorization Act official year 2026 to modify the responsibility and authorities of the Director of National Intelligence. So that is something come from the Republic. And then they try to limit the authority of actually Gabbard. And also they try to reduce the amount of employees working in the DNI. So is this predictable or
Yeah,
it
because they've
surprised
been
you?
politically embarrassed. Why is all this coming out now? Why is Tulsi Gabbard the one releasing it and not them? Where have they been? Where have the House senators and the House representatives and the Senate's Republican senators? Where have they been? What have they been doing? Because most people already knew most of this. This was
Mhm,
well known that Hillary paid for the dossier that opened up Russiagate and laid siege to the investigation of Trump for his first 2 years in the presidency. That's all
mhm,
well known. It's been well known. Now the
mhm.
only thing that's happened is Tulsi has packaged it, made
Right.
copies of all of these documents, and turned them over to the Department of Justice.
Mhm.
So
She
yeah,
just doing
Where's Cotten been? Where have they been?
well, Tarsi Gabbard is doing her job. That's her job duty, and she's doing now and doing well. So
Yeah.
then, yeah, if Tom Cotton and these guy are working responsibly, they should do that. And now they see some other people doing that, and they're not happy, so they try to limit the other people's job. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, the whole creation of DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, happened because back after 9/11, in the early days after the 9/11 attack,
Right.
people said, well, maybe the CIA, the director of the CIA is overwhelmed just running the CIA. So let's have someone that oversees the whole intelligence community, call
Uh,
it the director of national intelligence, and go from there so that it's not just the head of the CIA that makes all the determinations of what the intelligence community does.
mhm,
So this would be allocating resources and how many people and all of that. And uh, and it's interesting that all of this is coming out now after Tulsi Gabbard pretty much embarrasses the rest of the
mhm.
government
Right.
by packaging this and sending it to the Department of Justice. So
Wow.
now let's see what Pam Bondi and company does.
Right. She's the key right now. She's the key. And also, according to the report that Cotton does not want DNI to investigate and generate its own intelligence. He demands the ONDI just accept and regulate the intelligence Tulsi Gabbard would be given by the other agency. No independent review of analysts permitted. This is crazy, right?
Yeah.
So what their job should be, DNI. What is their job? Are they
Well,
should
DNI's job is supposed to coordinate for all of the 10 or 12 agencies that comprise the intelligence community. And then that would be determine their budgets, determine, the resources that they get and what they should be doing and all of that, and be the coordinator because there's just too much going on for the head of the CIA by himself or herself to be doing it. And I remember being in meetings with Mueller when he was director of the FBI, and they were creating this position. And he thought, oh, great, he has somebody to appeal to get more budget. And
okay.
it didn't happen. So later he said, well, that was worthless. Because before the budget of the FBI, how many agents in the FBI worked counter-espionage? All of that, how much their budget was allocated by the head of the CIA. And so the idea was, and for the other agencies as well. So the CIA, that was the idea, is to take the burden off of the head of the CIA and put it in this other position, cabinet level position
Mhm,
of DNI,
mhm,
and that director of intelligence would basically make the determinations. Now later, Mueller is saying, well, we didn't really get any more out of that than we got before. So
mhm.
then, he looked at it like it was kind of worthless.
Sure. So by the definition, can DNI have their own report, own analyst and own like yeah, just a report. Can they have it issue the report
Well, they're
or
supposed to, yeah, because they're supposed to allocate the resources that every agency that's in the community gets. The mapping agency, other agencies like DEA even later became a member of the Intel community. So
Mhm.
all of these agencies would have their mission
Right.
and resources dictated by DNI. So
Mm-hmm.
DNI was in the perfect position. Well, in that case, I'm going to allocate resources to me.
Mm.
And that's kind of what they did is um, analyze some of these things. Now, right now, you have a certain amount of redundancy. You have Central Intelligence Agency, then you
Right.
have the Defense Intelligence Agency,
Right.
and they
Mm-hmm.
kind of compete with each other. And so DNI was supposed to be like the broker between all of these competing entities, and
Mm-hmm.
then distill that down to where it would be a useful package to the decision makers.
Right. So this is their job, right? To give a
Yeah,
report. Yeah. So the report said all of these actions come from Cotten push the intelligent community power center back to CIA and away from preying eyes on DNI. So this is the motive. It's so
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, we never expect that it's from the Republic. It's not from the Democrat. It's so interesting.
yeah.
And yeah, and then I just read an article that I text you. Remember the article that said they have the Clinton. Hold on one second. Let me open the article. Yeah, Senate Judiciary Committee drop bombshell of on FBI's Clinton cover-up,
Right.
declassify and release the long-hiding Clinton and annex to public. So you know about this cover-up, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit about that? This is a big issue.
I think that well, what the FBI has done regarding the Clintons is amazing because the FBI had a extensive investigation on the Clinton Foundation
Sure.
and what was happening, basically money laundering and the cheating that they were doing through that.
Mhm.
And so they pretty much, but nothing happened with that. So there was never any charges. And what happens later when Hillary is no longer going to be the president. At the time she was possibly going to be the president, all of these donors, all of these countries all over the world were funneling millions and tens of millions of dollars into the foundation with
Mhm.
the idea that they would have favor then with Hillary Clinton when she becomes president, which they would have.
Mhm.
Then, when she doesn't become president, all of these different countries, all these different companies withdraw. Well, we're not going to give any more money because they're not going to get anything back for it.
Mhm.
And so the Clinton Foundation then, was losing money at an unbelievable rate. And much of the money that they were spending wasn't proper anyway. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on Chelsea Clinton's wedding,
Yep.
among other things. They were misusing the money. No one was really keeping track of what they were doing with the money, or auditing them or regulating them in any way. So the Clintons, they take in all of this money that's supposed to go help all of these countries. And
Mhm.
what they really did was help themselves to first class travel all over the world and first class hotels and all of that. But
Mhm.
at the time, when the foundation was really going strong, when Hillary was Secretary of State, people were donating left and right. First of all, they wanted favoritism with the State Department then,
Mhm.
but the idea was she has a good chance to be president of the United States, and
Mhm.
then she'll take care of us at that time. Then when she gets eliminated and she loses that election, that all comes to a halt. All
Mhm.
of that money that was pouring into the foundation stops.
Mhm.
So it kind of showed where the people were that were donating the money and why they were donating it.
Yeah,
They
right.
weren't doing it for good deeds or, you know, to be good citizens or good citizens of the world or any of that. They were doing that because they expected favoritism from what would become the Clinton administration.
Yeah. They use their power for exchange about their own benefit.
Right.
Is there any kind of overseas community for these huge and big foundation, or only IRS can check with
No,
them?
they're supposed to be audited, and the different states and where they're set up
Mm-hmm,
are supposed to also regulate them.
mm-hmm.
But you saw the Clinton Foundation, set up in New York. Nobody touched them. I don't even know if they were ever audited.
Ah,
So
that's the problem. That's the
so that
problem.
was an ongoing scandal from the day one.
Right. It's been years, right? At least
Yeah,
20 years, right?
yeah.
Yeah, right. And
Well,
and
she loses in 2016.
yeah.
That was pretty much the end of the foundation having any
Mm,
possibility of being successful.
yeah, right. Yeah. Well, talking back about the Obama crime, do you think legal is the right law to use in this kind of situation, or some other law can used against him?
I think there's probably plenty of laws if they'll do it, if they'll use them.
Okay. So
Now,
go ahead.
the problem right now that's going to go on is that, yeah, you have Pam Bondi, head of the DOJ, Attorney General, and she's part of the Trump administration and all of that. But lower in the ranks of DOJ, you still have all these Democrats. You still have all the people that waged warfare against Trump and are loyal to the Democratic Party and would still be loyal to Hillary. So, so really, you don't have the solidarity of management. You don't have the Department of Justice saying Trump won an enormous mandate, therefore we're going to help get his policies enacted and acted upon. So I think that a lot of that is just now hypocrisy, that they don't want to do any mandate from Trump.
Well, thank you for mentioning that because even Pam Bondi wants to do something right, and the lower people are not maybe cooperate with her. Is that what do you want to say? The situation is like that?
That may be the case, but I'm just saying that that's a possibility that lower in the ranks, just like lower in the ranks of the FBI right now,
Hmm.
we still probably have agents going back to the Russia Gate and some of that nonsense.
Right.
We still might have disloyal agents that are disloyal to the Constitution, disloyal to the country itself.
Hmm. So
But
they
we'll
don't
see.
care. Yeah, they don't care about the facts, even though we have overwhelming evidence. They don't care.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, so we'll
Right.
see. Yeah, you're right. And so, any other important news this week that you feel needs to brought to the attention of our audience in particular?
I think that these issues we've talked about are probably the main ones.
Mm,
The Tulsi Gabbard documents provided the DOJ. That to me, that's the main one. If they even get that, that done properly,
right.
it would be tremendous.
Right.
And I still, I'm not 100% convinced that Pam Bondi is up for the job. Is she going to be courageous enough to
Right.
to uh, follow this through and
Right.
make sure that the attorneys at the Department of Justice will do what they're supposed to be doing?
Hmm. It's like eyes on Pen Bundy right now.
Yeah.
Percy Gabriel, she has done on her part, and she's pretty brave to do so. You're right. Actually, she is against the whole IC. So I think
Yeah.
lots of IC people will hate her.
And they've been against her. So
Right.
it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. And see, next week, you probably have more evidence that come from a DNI and see what that can bring.
Well,
Okay.
we'll see.
Yeah. All right.
We'll find
Well,
out next week.
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so very much, Tom.
Thank you. My
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah, we have so many news. I need to see some news put out today. I think and still have some big issue related to the Obama crime. So it will be a very hot topic, I think, for
Yeah,
next few weeks at
it's
least.
going to be interesting to me to see because what you have is you have a much like a major organized crime case that I ran
Right,
thousands of in my
right.
career.
Hmm.
And in those cases, what you're looking at through the gathering of evidence and search warrants and wiretaps and all of that, evidence against all of the people that were involved in the conspiracy to help the organized crime group.
Hmm.
Somewhere in that, people it starts to dawn on some of the members of that conspiracy
Hmm.
that they better cooperate
Yeah.
because they're going to be thrown under the bus by the big guys, by the
Hmm.
bosses. And
Hmm.
so now that's what I think you're going to see, and it's probably already happening right now behind the scenes,
Right.
is that they're already trying to make a deal with DOJ
Hmm.
or through the FBI that they'll testify, they'll do whatever, but to make a deal so they don't have to go to prison. So we'll see. I think cooperation like that uh, is still going to happen and maybe happening now. We just don't know yet publicly.
Sure. Yeah, this is a very exciting topic. Okay, let's see. Let's say if Comey like to cooperate, okay, fully cooperate. So what's gonna happen if he come out to cooperate with IC or cooperate with DOJ? So what gonna bring to Obama or
If somebody as high ranking as Comey
uh-huh,
or Brennan
right,
or Clapper, if any of
yeah,
those guys actually cooperated,
right.
then they could put a dagger in Obama's heart with their cooperation. And so that's what's going to remain to be seen is that somebody at that level can really, really do the damage against Obama. Biden again was there, but he's kind of a non-entity. Even then, I think he was probably worthless.
Mhm.
But That's a big deal.
So meaning that if people like Comey decide to cooperate with DOJ and Obama should be nowhere to go, right?
Right, right.
Okay. Okay, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
That
Obama will know. It's kind of like, any of your listeners that may be aware of, 15, 20 years ago, when at the time I was running the FBI's organized crime program.
mhm,
And I loved that program because we had this all the time. You had maybe the Gambino family or the Colombo family or one of the La Cosa Nostra families.
mhm,
And it was always an effort to figure out who would cooperate and turn against the others. And a
mhm,
good example of that was Sammy the Bull Gravano, the
mhm,
underboss, number two to Gotti, during the prosecution is starting to, he was one of the defendants along with Gotti and two others.
mhm,
And he finds out while he's in jail in the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York, he
mhm.
finds out Gotti is going to throw him under the bus and say, he did everything. He was responsible for all these murders. I didn't do it. He did it.
Right.
Sammy did it. And Sammy finds out that that's going to happen. And that's when he and the FBI made the arrangements for him to be taken out of that jail and taken to Quantico and later cooperate and testify.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's
So
what happened there. And it was devastating because
mhm,
then Gotti had no alibi was going to save Gotti at that
mhm,
time.
mhm. Well, this is a good game to play. Yeah,
It's
because
very interesting. That's why I have to admit I loved my job when I was in charge of the Bureau's worldwide organized crime program.
uh,
All of these various chess matches against various organized crime groups
right,
was
right,
really interesting,
right.
really exciting.
Uh-huh.
And, Bureau executives and Department of Justice executives and, others did these strategy meetings all the time. Well, if we get this guy, who can he testify against? Or we get that guy, who will that person be able to
Mhm.
help? So Gravano, he put a lot of gangsters in prison with his testimony.
Wow. It's like a 3D chase. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm so grateful that you come here and then just tell us some inside secret. It's so, just like you said, it's so interesting. And then this is life. So next week, we'll see how they move the 3D chase a little bit more.
Right. We'll
Yeah.
see. I hope.
All
We'll
right.
see something anyway in the meantime.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tom, for your
Thank
time.
you very much.
Sure. I'll see you next week and I'll do the Chinese version pretty soon.
Okay.
All right.
And thank everybody. Thank you all who are watching. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. See you next week, Tom. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.